Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell sent his strongest signal yet on Friday that the central bank is likely to lower interest rates next month. In a closely watched speech in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Powell cited sweeping changes in tax, trade, and immigration policies, noting that the shifting balance of risks may warrant adjusting the Fed's current policy stance. Stocks surged on Friday following those remarks. The Fed's next meeting is in mid-September. Joining us now, senior economics reporter for Axios, Courtney Brown. Courtney, let's start with that speech from Powell, because a lot of eyes were on it. And you have to imagine some of those were in the White House because of Trump's sustained pressure campaign to get these rates lowered. You see stock markets reacting. What are you hearing from your sources?
They're excited about the possibility for a rate cut. I think their sentiment was well reflected in the stock market's move on Friday. We'll see what happens this morning. But there is some concern that this is not happening for the good reason. There's two types of rate cuts. There's the bad kind of rate cut and the good news kind of rate cut. We're somewhere in the middle. Powell made it very clear in his speech on Friday that there are concerns about the labor market. We learned that hiring essentially stalled over the summer. And so the Fed is stepping in here to release some or relieve some pressure on the economy with a potential rate cut in September. And, you know, what happens in October and December, I mean, we'll have to see. But for now, it looks like a rate cut is on the table next month.
So a kind of good, kind of bad rate cut then, if you look at it through that lens.
Exactly.
The other piece of it, though, is that Trump has really been pressuring the Fed in a number of ways, whether it's Jerome Powell or the way that he's now attacking a Biden-appointed Fed governor, Lisa Cook, saying that he'll fire her if she doesn't resign over so far unfounded allegations against her of mortgage fraud. This is something we've seen Trump leverage against other Trump critics like Tish James, Adam Schiff, but specifically to Lisa Cook. What might this look like, and what kind of signal does it send for an independent Fed now to be targeted in such consistent fashion by a White House?
One thing I feel obligated to say at the outset is Fed Governor Lisa Cook is someone who's very passionate about the labor market, and she tends to be a so-called dove, which means she tends to favor lower interest rates. So if that's what the president is going after, it might not be in his best interest to try to take these mechanisms to fire or potentially remove Fed Governor Cook. But that's just a point I feel like I need to make.
Yeah.
The other thing is, it's very clear that President Trump is passionate about making his mark on the Fed. Lisa Cook's term doesn't expire until 2028. So, you know, she's going to be in that seat a while.
Yeah.
This looks like a mechanism by which the administration is trying to get its chance to leave its mark on the Fed a little bit early in the interest of possibly lowering rates. A rate cut of, 25 basis points or a quarter of a percentage point that looks likely in September. That's not what the administration wants. Yes, they want rate cuts, but they want big rate cuts. And we have no sense that the Fed is going to cut rates to that extreme.
Yeah, that it might be a more tapered approach.
Exactly.
This is far from the only story in your beat that I want to cover. So I'm going to ask you about the latest developments here, because many conservative figures are lashing out now at the Trump administration over the announcement late last week that it had taken a 10% stake in Intel. President Trump's calling the move a great deal for America and for Intel, but others in his party are calling it socialism. Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky posted that the government owning part of Intel would be, in his words, a step towards socialism, and called it a terrible idea. Conservative radio host Eric Erickson said, quote, "This is socialism with an R next to its name." And the editorial board of the conservative magazine National Review wrote this headline, quote, "The government shouldn't get into the chip business." So for people catching up on this and wondering, all right, why do I care? Can you lay out the contours of this? Because it is unorthodox.
Axios tends to do a really good job looking at the big picture story. And we've been reporting for weeks about the way that President Trump is restyling capitalism in a way that we really haven't seen before. And this Intel deal where they take 10% of a stake in the company is just the latest example of that. We saw a few weeks ago, or perhaps it was just last week, I'm sorry, I'm losing track of time, that the administration said, okay, to NVIDIA and AMD, if you want to sell a certain type of chip in China, you're going to give the government 15% of some of those sales. And so it's this kind of interventionist approach that we're seeing a lot during this administration. we've written a lot about how CEOs feel like if they want to do something, there is going to be a cost associated with it. And President Trump seems to be very passionate about having a stake in what corporate America is doing. We've seen this now with Intel, NVIDIA, Apple to a certain extent, being almost forced to announce these huge sums of investment in the U.S. or less they might face big tariffs.
Yeah, it's really blurring the lines between public and private. And I think it's definitely something we're going to continue to watch, because you're right. The president does seem passionate about making this a bigger conversation beyond just NVIDIA and AMD, which we saw a few weeks ago. Courtney Brown, always love when you come on. Thank you. But you're